My name is Alex Herlihy, and I'm conducting an audio tour of the coast of Rye, New Hampshire, from the southerlymost point at Bass Beach on the border of Northampton, all the way north to Odeon Point, where we meet the mouth of the Piscataqua River and its coastal Rye. I am the director of the Rye Town Museum. The tour begins at Bass Beach, which is shared by both Northampton and Rye. And two of the most distinguished things about Bass Beach are two small cottages that sit right on the ocean, just at the northern point of the beach. And these two were originally fishing houses, one or both of which were picked up and tossed around and ended up in the middle of Ocean Boulevard. They were repaired and raised up after the blizzard of '78. So the actual border of Rye is just south of these two cottages, and it includes the northernmost section of this beach. Another distinguishing thing about Bass Beach is when there are big waves, because it's a natural cove created by Fox Point on a sharp promontory heading out south into Northampton on Little Boar's Head. So you have it's one of the many headlands that characterize the coast of Rye. So that creates a wonderful natural cove and very good for surfing. And in the early 1970s, there was actually an East Coast Surfing Championship that was held here in 1973. Moving north along the boulevard, which was constructed from 1902 to 1904, we come upon unparalleled views of the ocean and also of Rye Ledge, which is the next promontory that juts out from the coastline. And this is a ledge that is at low tide, free for people to walk out on. But one must be careful to watch the tide, because you could very easily sit out there too long and have to swim back if you fell asleep, as it used to happen to my brother. Just before you get to the Rye Ledge, there's a large open space, a huge grassy lawn with a flagpole in the middle and a white fence around it. This is the site of the beginning, really, of Rye's resort days, starting in 1846. And this great green space was the site of the first and second Farragut hotels, the second Farragut 1883 to 1975, when it was demolished, was really the grande dame of Rye's hotels. And at its height, Rye, as a summer resort, had 8 hotels and upwards of 40 boarding houses. The first hotel that was built here before the Farraguts was the Atlantic House, and it was a former farmhouse that belonged to the Philbricks family, and they moved it across the road, raised it up, and opened Rye's first hotel in 1846. In 1864, the first Farragut opened, and soon thereafter, across the road, we're at the end of Central Road now, near Ocean Boulevard. Across the road from that first Farragut was built the Farragut Playhouse. It was called Mr. Weld's Hall, and there were all sorts of activities there, everything from religious services to gambling and everything in between. Moving north along the coast, as we approach Rye Ledge, we see a beautiful wet stone wall. This was built by Italian masons after the Ocean Boulevard was completed in 1904, or as part of the project. And of course, we are now officially in Rye Beach, which is a distinct village district within Rye, and it has sidewalks and street lighting and so forth. And you want to take a left on Church Road. But before you do, you want to look down to the right. And the first thing you'll see, you'll be parking beside a lovely 2.5-story, unassuming mansion with a lot of beautiful trellis work that juts out from the front porch and so forth, and a second floor balcony. This was built by this Studebaker family in 1917. They used to go to the Farragut Hotel, but they had some complaints perhaps about the service, or decided they just wanted their own place to live, so they built this in the middle of World War I. Further down, you will see a house sticking up. It's a new house, but it's on the site of what used to be a naval radar station during World War II. And that house, after the war, was converted to a private home and then torn down, and this new house still replicates the little base of where the naval radar device used to search for enemy ships during the war. The reason that this left-hand turn here is called Church Road is because of a lovely chapel that was built here in 1876. Now, Rye, of course, by this time was very, very famous as a resort, and so you had a lot more people living here in the summer. The summer people would come, and they would stay in hotels, stay in boarding houses, perhaps rent out rooms. But the point is, they wanted religious services. And so this, is particularly, they wanted Episcopal services. So St. Andrew's by the Sea was built in 1876, patterned after an English country church, built of beautiful stone with a lovely bell tower and a beautiful Tiffany rose window on the end that faces Church Road. There's a lot of fascinating features here, very historic church, and the volunteers who work here open this for trolley tours and for other visitors and for programs. And it is a great icon of Rye Beach. So continuing along on Church Road, a lot of newer homes here, but beautiful greenery. And this simply rejoins Ocean Boulevard. It is a one-way road going north. So we have passed Rye Ledge, and when you come to the stop sign, you look left, you'll see a large 2.5-story gray beach house, typical of the kind one would find here, built in the late 1800s, early 1900s. In the 1950s and 60s, this was the home of Dr. Isaac Katz. Dr. Katz was a survivor of Auschwitz, and he went on to become a doctor and lived here, a beloved doctor. I guess he pretty much was the town doctor, and he sadly died young at age 48 in 1968. Now, just after Dr. Katz's house, you pass the head of South Road, and that, of course, reminds you that even though this is a tour of coastal Rye, there is so much just inland that is very much, in a sense, a part of the coast, including sites of former hotels and so forth. But in between South and Sea roads, as you look out at the ocean, you will see another little pocket beach, and that is known as Philbricks Beach. The Philbrick family being very prominent in Rye, settling here in the 1600s, so 2 centuries later, here they were hotel builders. And this was also a beach that was used to quarantine people if they had become infected with a virus, so they could use this beach here. And just opposite the beach is the lovely former Drake House Hotel, built in 1873. And it was very soon tripled in size to its current size in that classic mansard roof style. And as soon as you look at it, you know it was not built as a private home. It was converted in the 1960s from a hotel into an apartment building, which it still is today, run by the fourth generation of the Drake family. And just opposite the Drake house, which is on the inland side of the boulevard, right on the ocean, is the Rye Beach Club, which started out as Locke's Bathing Pavilion, connected to the Locke's boarding house, the lovely Locke's boarding house at the head of Sea Road, just inland. And in 1924, by 1924, it had expanded to become the Rye Beach Club. It is now on the National Register of Historic Places. So it will be coming up on its centennial. But in fact, the stone part of the building does date back to 1899. And at one time they had a saltwater pool in there, but then later converted to freshwater. There also used to be little bathhouses that went to Sawyers boarding house, also on Sea Road, but those were demolished a few years ago. So as you head north from this area, Philbricks Beach, you're looking straight up Sawyers Beach, which then goes past Jenness Beach, the state beach, and then continues on to what some people call Pagoda Beach, or the Cable Beach, at the northern part of this great, long, serpentine beach created by the two headlands. And originally, Sawyers Beach was actually owned by the Sawyers family, who owned the 7 bathhouses that used to be right on the edge of the shore here. Now, just opposite this lovely beach is the eel pond. And the eel pond receives the inland waters and drains the southern part of Rye. Cedar Swamp Run starts up by West and South Road, comes down through Browns Pond, Burke's Pond, down through Cedar Swamp Run, under the various roads, out into the vast eel pond, and then there's a culvert that runs under Ocean Boulevard, so when you walk on the beach, you can see where the culvert comes out. And the houses that surround the eel pond are owned, they actually own the bottom of the actual pond, so they control the level, they're in charge of the level of the pond to keep it ecologically correct at different times of the year. So moving north along the boulevard here, there is what we call a berm of stones. Not huge stones, just a pile of stones that doesn't really protect against storms, but makes it so one does not see the beach on this part of the drive. This tour being done on August 10th, of course, the lifeguard stands are up there. And we're still going along the eel pond on the left. Now we come across a series of about 6 or 7 homes, all built after World War II. And like with all building, there's always controversy surrounding them, because, of course, people before the war had been used to this as a lovely open beach, with their houses on it. But the fact is, on the other side of Jenness Beach, one finds houses that were there from early 20th century or before. So it's just a question of who gets possession of the land and what they decide they want to do with it. And a lot of people, of course, like to have their houses right on the water. We now are passing the Dunes Motel, which is one of the few places where you can have a reasonably priced motel and then walk across a boulevard, and there you are on the ocean. Just after the Dunes is a very historic store, which 50, 60 years ago was the Sandpiper store, and that was called the Sandpiper Beach before the state changed the Sandpiper Beach in 1962 to make it Jenness State Beach and put in the current parking that is there. The Sandpiper, of course, over the years has evolved from a country store, beach sundries with a nice soda fountain, as you would expect in mid-20th century, to today a very popular place called Summer Sessions Surf Shop. And surfing, of course, has a long history in this town. And it has evolved over the years from different clubs to people opening up shops to the rage that surfing currently is. We who are natives and grew up in this town like myself don't remember seeing very many people on surfboards. We used our body as a surfboard, and then eventually little boogie boards came along. Just north of the beach is a place called the Carriage House Restaurant, and this has been here as a restaurant for many, many years, dates way back to the early 20th century. It used to be called Swenson's Grill, and that was a much more modest restaurant of the mid-20th century. Moving north from this area now, north of Jenness Beach. Of course, there are houses on both sides, and this is the Jenness Beach Village District, so you see various roads going off to the left, very densely populated, has a little bit of a Coney Island feel about it, but a lot of interesting houses, beach-style houses built over the years at various levels of value. We now are coming upon another little beach access walkway, and we're outside a store called Common Roots, but this dates back to the 1920s, when in fact the store was first built or converted from a private building as a store, and it was called Carberry's, opened by honest John Carberry, and apparently he wasn't, according to his family. And it has evolved over the years. By the late 1950s, Herb Philbrick of I Led 3 Lives fame, double agent, U.S. Soviet Union, and he wrote a book by that title. Some of us nicknamed the store 3 Lives. But Herb Philbrick owned that in mid-century, and then it went on to have various other names, and today it is called Common Root, but it still has the soda fountain. It is still a store that sells beach sundries and so forth, and light groceries. Moving north from here, from this store, we come upon a very historic set of cabins that by the 1870s had opened up as a rooming house. It's at 2187 Ocean Boulevard. And over the years after that, that was probably a rooming house. These small one-story cabins of different sizes opened up. And for the last 50 years, the Burns family have run these summer cabins. And they were a real throwback in Rye, because so often in the town in recent decades, these cabins have gone away and a much more gentrified look has replaced them. Well, there's nothing gentrified about these cabins, and that, of course, is their great appeal.